And we are back with another outstanding episode of Square Table Degenerates. Today, we welcome to the show author in Cleveland's own, Matthew Fray. What's going on, my friend?
Joe, good morning, sir. How was Billy Joel last night?
It was, I got really a funny story. So I go to the VA yesterday because I'm getting my blood pressure checked, right? Oh, shit, I got to turn off the nurse at the VA is like, Joe, your blood pressure's through the roof. It says you got high blood pressure because I had these meds. They were giving these fucking whatever these things are. I don't know what they are. Chlorothoridine, whatever the fuck. And I was, they were like half pills, right? And I would cut them in half. They take half, and half the time they're so small you cut them in half. Half the time they turn to dust. So she gives me the new prescription. It's a full pill now. Regardless of that, I'm sitting there at the Billy Joel concert. The first song he plays. Or Rod Stewart was great. I think Rod Stewart was actually better than Billy Joel. Get into that in a second. But the first song Billy Joel plays when it comes on is heart attack, and I'm thinking, fuck, if I sit here with this high ass hypertension, I have a heart attack during this goddamn song. It's gonna be great, right? And then later on he played Only the Good Die Young, and I'm thinking this is another great song. But overall, the Rod Stewart played all the good. Billy Joel played a lot of mid shit, like songs I didn't really hear before, and we had to get out of there early. It was like 10:30 when we left. Me and Kim. I was not trying to sit in downtown traffic. It wasn't bad when we left too. It was good, but it was good, man. It was really good.
I'm glad to hear that.
Not to make everything about me, but we're both talkers around here, buddy. You know how it is, man.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go way back to your birth. How did it feel being a baby? I'm just kidding. Beyond that, where did you grow up? What suburb, city, and what did your parents do for a living?
So, all right. So I didn't grow up in Cleveland. I was born in Iowa City, Iowa. And my parents, so as you know, I'm like relationship coach, I write and talk about divorce and shit like that. That's like what I do professionally. And what started that sort of journey, unbeknownst to me when I was 4 years old, was my parents getting split when I was 4. My mom's from Ohio, like the Dayton area, but farm Dayton area, not like suburban Dayton. And so I grew up in a little town called Sydney, Ohio. Some people may have heard of it. It's a little bit north of Dayton. I went to a little Catholic school called Lehman High School there. I don't know. I mean, that's pretty much it. And I went to college at the University of Toledo. I moved to Florida. I did Moonlit as a business writer for daily newspapers before. So I'm a high school graduate in 97. I'm 45 years old.
Okay.
Are we close age-wise?
Yeah, I'm 95. So I was a senior when you were a sophomore.
Yeah, but we suffered the same affliction where we didn't know when we graduated from high school that newspapers weren't going to be a thing. And so I was like, yeah, I'll have this awesome career, being a print journalist. It didn't really work out at all.
Well, back in the day, now, when you were younger, did you ever have a paper route? Because I had a paper route from 87 to 91. I delivered the Plain Dealer to Bernard Avenue and West Boulevard in Cleveland. I had like 60, 70 customers. It's funny though, because how long did you deliver newspaper for?
Maybe 2 years as a little kid. But it wasn't like the daily. It was like the shitty, twice weekly paper that you didn't want. It's like the one that went straight into trash or recycling. So
I got a funny story about that. You just kicked the fucking trigger memory. Back in 92, 93, right when I got my license, because I was born in December 76. So I got my license like a week after I turned 16 in 92. I was looking for any kind of work. This is back in 92, 93. This is not like how it was now. You can't just walk in any place. There was not a lot of jobs out there. So I was like, they had this paper called the Sun News, and I did it. Me and my buddy Sam Schwan. We did it 1 week. We just delivered it, like you said, a weekly paper. And when I went around to collect, half the people I didn't get this paper. I did it 1 week and I ended up losing like $10. I was like, fuck this. And the guy delivered the paper. I was like, dude, you don't deliver these papers. I'm not delivering them. He still delivered. I ended up throwing them in the trash.
It was the whole thing. So anyway, I moved. I married a girl from Northeast Ohio. She was Portage County gal. All my shit's about, all my woe is me, my marriage ended stuff. She was originally from Portage County. So when we came back from Florida in 2006, moved to Cuyahoga Falls, still live here.
Okay.
So I don't think calling it Cleveland, it's a little disingenuous, I'd say, to claim Cleveland, but I to everybody who's not from here.
Yeah, no, I went to I've been out to there a couple times. There's a comedy club out there. What the fuck is it called?
Yeah, I live really close. I forget.
Funny Stop. Yeah, because the guy Funny Stop Pete, he just passed away 6 months ago or so. It's sad. I did a couple sets out there, but he had a clean rule for noobs, and I was like, I ain't doing clean. So I think I said fucking after that. I just said whatever because once I said fucking, it was disqualified. So, well, it's like the prize too, Matt. It was do you go by Matt or Matthew?
Either way, whatever you say.
I'll say Matt because shorter is gooder for me because I'm old and I'm going to die soon. But I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Yeah. Once you said, you got this clean comedy rule. As people, although people watching my show now are, very loyal viewers. And they know I swear a lot, and I just can't. And I don't swear all the time, but it's like I can't have the freedom to not swear because sometimes you just gotta say fuck. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
That's my thing. I can't, and that might limit the hell out of my opportunities. You know what I mean? It really does. A lot of these corporate gigs, they want 50 minutes of clean comedy. Hey, here's $500. I can't sit there and talk about drug mart pasta or fucking styrofoam packing peanuts or whatever the fuck these people want to hear. I gotta speak what I want. So you gotta swear sometimes, man. You really do.
Yeah. I get a lot of shit from the church community. The church community, you'd be surprised, like how many sort of like Christian churches and pastors and like marriage leaders want to use my work, but they'll like often write me like, "Do you have to cuss so much? Like, I can't share this with my parishioners or whatever." And I'm like, "Hey, like all the non-Jesus-y people need healthy marriages too." That's
the thing is that people sometimes need to hear the truth with swear words. You have to get out of your comfort zone in life, especially if you want to make things work. We're gonna get a lot of cool stuff like that. We're definitely are. So you was in so you did say your parents split up, did you?
Yeah. When I was 4, 100 years ago, 1983. And that's when I moved to Ohio. My mom returned to Ohio. My mom's always been from Ohio. So from age 4 to 45, minus a brief stint on the Gulf Coast of Florida in the Tampa area, I'm an Ohioan.
Okay, now
I take it seriously?
Was it like a split custody thing? How did that work when you was growing up?
Well, when in the 80s, judges just let one of the parents take the kid somewhere else. Like, I don't think you could do that like today. I don't think that's a thing. But I just saw dad like school breaks. Like I would go stay all summer out there or like the 2-ish weeks during your like Christmas break. That was
I do remember that. I remember some kids that would only be there for the summer, and that was okay. Yeah. I'm triggering back all kinds of 80s and 90s memories on this. This is great, bro.
Yeah. No, it was not optimum way to, I think, have a father-son relationship, but we did the best we could.
Right. Do you think that are both your parents still around, or are they?
Yes, sir. Yeah, dad still lives where he lives, which is like Western Illinois, Iowa border, sort of in the greater Chicago area. Okay. And then my mom still lives in like the greater Dayton area. And now again, I'm up here in Northeast Ohio for the last almost 19 years.
Okay, now forgive me if some of this gets too personal, but
it's all right. That's what I do.
Do you think that kids who have parents that are divorced tend to think different about relationships than parents who have kids that stick together? I mean, there's obviously different situations. I got a friend I know, her parents are been married 50 years and she's divorced, but when you look at it analytically, I mean, at least in my eyes, do you think that's the case? I mean, it's a different perception of a relationship?
I mean, I think so. I individually, I don't know how to know, having not had the parents like make it. I don't know, but all the numbers, like all the stats, say that children of divorce are statistically more likely to divorce themselves. And I can't speak. I'm not a psychiatrist or psychologist. I can't speak to like why that is. But I mean, I believe in data. Yeah, the math says that that's what happened. So I'm going to definitely subscribe to the notion that. I don't know. Maybe we're more lax. Maybe we normalize divorce a little bit more than we should. I'm not sure. I don't want to say I normalized divorce, but I took it for granted. Like,
right.
I was definitely afraid of it, but sort of not afraid enough to like do things differently day to day during my 13-year relationship with my ex-wife.
Yeah, divorce is. I mean, because I've been through some crazy shit in my marriage. I'm not gonna sit here and act like I've had a perfect marriage. We kind of tolerate each other, you know what I mean? But there's a sarcastic toleration that we deal with. And there was this movie probably, maybe 7, 8, 9 years ago. I can't remember exactly, but it was called Divorce Corp. And me and Kim watched that together. And I was like, no matter what happens, this is just a complete waste of money. Like I just, the way society sets up divorce is just so shitty. Like in Ohio, I mean, I'm sure you know this. I'm preaching to the choir with you, but like if you split up with your wife or separate, you guys break up and you got kids, you got to go to parenting classes.
Yeah. I had to go. I wrote about that one.
I think that is, dude, for a grown ass man or a grown ass woman to go to fucking parenting classes. That's insulting. I've been a dad for, not that I'm going through this, but like say something that did happen. And I've been a parent for, 20 years now. To go through parenting classes, come on, man.
It was brilliant. They rolled out, I'm at the Summit County Courthouse for mandatory parenting class. They roll out the old like grade school cart with like the shitty old TV with like VCR. Remember that combo from like 5th grade? They wheel that out, and the video was so old. Karl Malone was in it in his Utah Jazz uniform, giving like parenting tips. I was like, you got to be fucking kidding me. So anyway, that was my parenting class experience.
So when it comes to the numbers, I mean, this is where I think a lot of men and women differentiate, is because like guys will be very analytical. Like everything I do is calculated, kind of. Like I'm not going to take a risk if it's going to be extreme failure. Like I'm not going to, spend $5,000 to go fly out to, Barbados, interview some celeb, and then the random chance I get them. If I get somebody, I'm here in my garage, just costs me nothing. It's already built into the thing. Guys are very more analytical. Chicks tend to, dream about stuff. They get this Disney thing in their head where, if I just wait, eventually, this 6'5" guy with the muscles is going to show up and, save me. That's not the way the world works usually. But they'll find like 1 in a million examples on it. So like when it comes to the stats thing, what is your take on that? You're a guy, so we probably like stats. You just say you kind of like stats too, but like, do you think that really affects a lot of it? Do you think more women should be analytical when it comes to this? Just look at the numbers, or do you think maybe they are and subconsciously they just take advantage of that in a skewed system? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I haven't really thought about that too much. I have long believed that media sets everybody up to fail. Like all the love stories and like the romantic comedies and the Disney princess movies, I do think it sets everybody up to fail. But I think about it a little differently. I think we are not taught by our parents, by our teachers, by our coaches, the actual shit that will determine whether your marriage will make it or not. I think we're mostly taught like, do unto others, don't be a dick, and everything's going to be fine. And that's actually not true. Really smart, extraordinarily high character, successful people get divorced all the time. I talk to them almost every day in my like coaching work. And it has nothing to do with character, it has nothing to do with even being bad. The thing that ends relationships, near as I can tell, if I can like Cliff's Note summarize this, is we can't trust one another to give a fuck about the things that matter to us as much as the other person will handle with care all the shit that matters to them. Just basic shit. And I'm talking like conversations around like the dish by the sink and, where the socks go when you take them off and, like how late we stay out or what time the kids get to bed or whatever. There's all these like little microtransactions in human relationships, and we just have differences of opinion about it. And I think most of us say a difference of opinion should not end a marriage. That's not what ends the marriage so much as the demonstration that I will not handle with care or treat with respect the shit that matters to you if I don't think it's important. I just think thematically that is the number one issue in marriage. And you got to find somebody who's going to be like, I will treat the shit that matters to you just as much, with the same level of importance as I treat the shit that matters to me. And that's a rare person in the world because we're all a little bit selfish.
The selfishness thing is so key. I found that, because I always look at, the grand picture and it's like, what am I to prove this little point in my head? Does it really matter? Just suck it up and move on. But that comes into, you have to, whatever your partner likes, don't make fun of kind of thing. You get so many, I see a lot of these couples out there, they'll have a husband that's really into World of Warcraft or whatever. And the woman's like, this guy's a dork. And they belittle it. And then there's always so many outlets, man. I think social media, it's just so many people could just seek solace in the arms of another just in 2 seconds when they're fed some bullshit. And I think people aren't real with themselves, especially, I hate to beat on the women a lot, but a lot of women tend to dream about this thing. It's not going to be like, for example, I'm not going to sit there and hope that Heather Graham comes into my life. I realize that I'm pudgy. I have only so much to offer. I realize I'm already married. And so that, I'm not going to harp on that, but like, I'll see, I got some women friends and they're like, I look at their standards and the pictures they post and it's like, dude, this isn't going to happen, man. And this leads me to my question that Jimmy C brings in and the hypergamy thing. Is it true that chicks are only into 10% of guys, or is that, I hate to use the term red pill. I'm sure you're familiar with it. It's,
a little bit.
Good entertainment if you're out there. But is the hypergamy thing true? Is that just a stereotype? What's your take on that?
I don't. I leave that for the people in the dating world, which I don't profess. My mission is for people who want to be married and are married to not get divorced. Like, that's my work. My work is not about attracting a mate. My work is not about like mowing through a bunch of chicks or like having success in the dating world. I really just want. I got divorced. It was fucking terrible. My son was 4, the same age I was when my parents divorced. I lost 50% of my son's childhood. He's now a junior in high school. And I don't know, like I've grieved that loss. It's been 11 years now. I'm cool about it, but back then it was really fucking hard, and I don't want people to go through it. I don't want people to lose time with their kids. I don't want kids to be sad because their parents don't live together anymore. So anyway, but like to answer your question, I mean, I do think there's women like that out there, but I want people to take personal responsibility. How about don't fucking be in a long-term relationship with some asshole who's trying to like extract resources or something from you? Like, only pick somebody who you can trust or who earns your trust. And I don't know. There's a lot of like angry people on the men's side and on the women's side about relationships, and I'm a little bit of a dick about it. I'm like, if you can't discern who you can trust versus who you can't trust, I can't help you.
Right. Oh, dude, that's such a great point, man. There's so many that we go. It all harkens back to the selfish thing. I mean, you get these people that they're like, I got to go overseas to find love. No, you don't. If you can't find a mate in a country of 350 million, it's not going to happen in Colombia or the Philippines, dude. It's I don't get the people who like berate the other side and expect them to swoon. Like, if you want to, I mean, we're not dating here. We're talking about the continuation clause of keeping the marriage going. But like, if you want to get that mate there, I mean, you can just let yourself better yourself, be for humanity, man. If you're gonna go out there and post something negative, go out there and plant a tree or pet a dog or something that makes you happy or makes the world better, instead of putting all this negative toxic bullshit out there that nobody reads anyways in your goddamn echo chamber. I mean, it's social media is a fuck, bro. I have fun with it. I do, just because I'm very sarcastic, and we guys like us, we grew up before the age of social media. But it's ridiculous, some of the thought processes to me. I mean, you got it's just ridiculous, bro. Some of that part is completely asinine. But if we can get into your relationship for a minute, because I like some of this background stuff, because I want to, a lot of this is going to continue over, and then we'll get to some Brown stuff too, and a lot of other stuff as well. But at what point did you? How did you and your ex-wife meet, and describe some early happy things, like because obviously you don't get married if you're not happy at first. What was the initial part, and what have you happy?
I mean, as most relationships start out, at least from my end toward her, I'm not going to act like I was some like super desirable thing. I was all right, but she was like ridiculously pretty. She was, I went to the University of Toledo, and she was like a baton twirler for the marching band and one of the like dancers for like the basketball team. And she was just really fucking pretty. And she was like she lived in the all girls dorm freshman year with some of the girls I was friends with. And so anyway, they hooked us up at a party. They were just like, you two need to know each other. And it didn't quite work out. Like, we liked each other, but it was like timing wasn't that great. We got together like 3 years later, but that's how that happened. And I don't know. We're both Ohio kids, right? We liked the idea of living by the beach. Ohio kids tend to think of Myrtle Beach, the Outer Banks, and Florida as like where you go for beach vacations. That's like a super Ohio thing. So we're like, let's go to Florida. And we both kind of had that, like, after we graduate, let's go to Florida thing. And so I think our just like life paths were like aligning, and we're just like, fuck it, let's do that. And so, not being engaged, we both moved to Florida, and we lived again just in like the greater Tampa area. And we got engaged and married down there, and moved back up here. Shit didn't hit the fan until we had a kid, which I think anybody who's listening who's married with children probably can think back to the amount of stress and strain in their marriage, correlating with the birth and the subsequent births of like more children. I love kids. My son is like my favorite human that's ever lived. And I really hope people will continue to like propagate the species. But I don't think anything taxes a relationship as hard as having children does. And I think not being aware of that tax that's going to happen is a real blind spot that a lot of us have. We don't compensate for it. Yeah,
I would agree 100%. I mean, it's once you have kids, I mean, you put the priority towards the kids. That's for sure. Nobody's going to disagree that as a parent, kids should be priority. However, partners have needs. Like, you can't, if you have somebody who's very hypersexual, if you have somebody who's, really into this, you have to still keep your partner's needs in mind. And I think a lot of people bump heads on stuff like that, in my opinion. Like they don't, you have to, and you can't go out here and this is just me talking, but like I see people, let's go on a date night. I see some of these guys going these date nights and they're fucking miserable because they're getting dragged to some bullshit that, you know, the girl's girlfriends told her to go to. Oh, this is a great time. Go out with Painting for a Twist. The guy could sit there and paint art. You know, for some guys that might be torture. Some guys might like it. I don't know. But like, you got to just basically you got to fuck. I mean, you got to set a time aside. The kids go over here. We're gonna have some adult time. And even if it's 10 minutes, you got to do that. If you don't, that's just gonna fester. It's gonna build up, and at some point, man, it's just gonna be an outlet. And there's plenty of outlets out there, man. There's fucking 8 billion people in the world. And you got to pay attention to your partner's needs. You do. Even if it means, you know, sometimes, okay, you know, I might not like this. You know, you got to do it. You just got to, because if not, you know, I couldn't fathom a divorce, dude. I couldn't. I mean, my parents are past deceased now, but like they stayed together. I don't know what they did, you know, throughout life, but they, you know, found out a way to make it work. And I just, you know, I couldn't fathom a way, you know, I basically, with the kids, there's no way I couldn't fathom not seeing my kids every day. I couldn't. And I'm going to make everything, even if I got to suck up some pride and just laugh it off, I'll do that. I don't give a fuck who's watching. There's no contest. You know what I mean? I can deal with some bullshit, you know? So it's weird like that to me. I mean, I think we just go back to the selfishness thing. It's just like a lot of people, you know, they just really think a lot of stuff. But going back to you, not to berate you at all. I'm not, touching this just a little bit. But like, was there a point when you started to, you know, see that it wasn't gonna work? Was she like alluding to stuff? What happened with that?
Well, I mean, in my work, I try to take the lion's share of responsibility for the end of our marriage. Like, I think that's the work. Like, I think the work is try to make shit suck less for the other person. Two people doing that for one another will make it. But most of the time, it's like it feels bad, whatever the fuck they're doing or not doing, and then we like make it about us. And I just think that's the beginning of the end. Young people pretty routinely do that because they're like, I gave up like my blissful, free, single life to be part of this like restrictive like thing where like the feedback's like so negative all the time, or where you're behaving in a manner that sucks so much more than you did when like it was free and easy. I think that's generally like the young person's experience when they sort of graduate from young and single to young and I'm going to take my first step into committed partnership. But I mean, listen, when we lived in Florida, yeah, I'm not afraid to say that like some shit was going down. She pressured me a little bit to like put a ring on it. I wasn't ready. And she was like, there was an implied threat that a relationship wasn't going to make it if I didn't like, you know, sort of shit or get off the pot, so to speak. She also fell out of love with Florida very fast within 12 months of living there. And Florida's not this like extraordinary place, but I was like, Jesus, we've been here a year. Like, what if we like lean into the life adventure thing? We have our entire lives to like go back to Ohio. And again, I don't want to like denigrate Ohio, but because I really do love it here. But I was not ready also to abandon my new job fresh out of school that I worked hard to get and go back to Ohio, where I'm not afraid to tell you the economic prospects back in the mid 2000s were not nearly as okay as they were in Florida. Like for a young couple that didn't have like a lot of money. So anyway, the big thing that she did was she never like did this, but she talked about like going to like stay with her parents in Ohio while I was busy like struggling to find a job from like 1,200 miles away. And that was insanely frustrating as like a young person. Like, what the fuck did I get into with like this person? And my general vibe about her was that she makes a huge deal out of these smaller things, which I think is really dangerous in relationships, by the way, for people, usually men, to think this. She makes a big deal out of this small shit. What's she going to do when something like really serious happens? Was like how I thought about it. Anyway, once we got back to Ohio, I thought everything would be better, but it kind of wasn't. It was fine until we had a child. But again, I don't want to blame her. I really believe I shortchanged our marriage when we became parents in ways that like they weren't obvious to me. I don't think they're obvious to most people.
Do you think subconsciously that, well, how old were you when you got married? Was it right out of high school, 24, 25?
Engaged 24, married 25.
Okay. Do you think that, I mean, obviously in hindsight, I mean, I was 32. Like, do you think? And it sounds like you didn't do the Polish wedding proposal. She wasn't pregnant when you walked down the aisle. So, do you think? Do you think she? I love that joke. Do you think that? I mean, it sounds like kind of subconsciously you knew this was like not the best thing from the beginning. Did you? I mean, did that obviously help you grow? Did you, and this gets to the dishes by the sink stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, what got you into that? After, I mean, like, describe the timeline, like post when you guys split up. And then, like, when you got into this and when you posted that stuff, and then
becoming like self-help guy.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so it's started as a selfish exercise. I'm like, holy shit, I can't believe how debilitating divorce is. Like, I can't believe how fucked up I am right now. Like, I had a pretty charmed life for the first 32, 33 years of my life. Is what I discovered when I was divorced in 33, because I'm like, I didn't know a human being could sort of experience being alive this shittily, outside of like something really tragic like death and cancer and like really awful shit. And I'm like, okay, lesson learned. This is really, really awful. In order to protect myself and my young child from having something like this happen again, let me do some detective work and let me try to figure this out. Like, what the fuck did I do? What was my role in this outcome? And, one thing led to another. And I get a lot of men specifically sort of accuse me of like taking too much responsibility. They're like, you let her off. No, I just don't talk about her. I've talked about her more in this conversation than I ever do. Like in my work, I'm not in the finger pointing business. I just, you know what I mean? Like, if I've given everything I have to give, then I can start pointing fingers. But if I am shortchanging my marriage, I don't see what the point is of like trying to figure out what percentage of the pie chart was her fault. I don't even understand that. If I'm, even if I'm only like 30% responsible, like until I clean that up, how can I even know what would have happened next? I didn't clean it up. And again, that's the dish by the sink stuff. And I'm happy to talk about it if you want to.
Now, you just made me think of something. It's like you're going through this divorce, anybody going through a divorce, it's like, it's such a negative thing. I mean, it's got to be right up there with, losing a parent or losing a kid, or, I mean, a divorce is probably right at the top of things you just don't want to happen.
It ranks. There's a stress. There's like a psychological stress thing out there that's like mathematical. It's called the Holmes and Ross stress scale. And divorce ranks 2 ahead of the death of your parents, ahead of the death of your children. Not in terms of like the fucking horror of it. I want to be careful here how I word this. It's not like which one's more tragic. It's like which one adds stress to your life in like a health way the most. The death of your spouse is number 1. Divorce is number 2. In terms of the like mathematical weight of life stressful events. Good things can be stressful too, like marriage and getting a new house and moving, like having a child. These are all like lovely things, but they add stress to your life. Divorce ranks 2 as the thing that will, like, if you believe in the idea that stress is the silent killer, it's the number 2 thing that'll fuck you up.
I see so many people that, man, because it's so wild, man. Because like you get, some people are just so happy when they're done. They're like, oh, this is great. They're just relieved. Then other people are just absolutely destroyed. There was this guy in my guard unit, man. He was probably in his 30s or 40s or some shit. This is 10, 20 years ago. And he used to joke every week, oh, me and the wife haven't fucked in blah, 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 2 years ago. And then she just took him to the cleaners, man. Jesus. Like, he had to move back home with his parents. That's completely demasculating for a grown-ass man, a provider, to be told by some jackass judge just because some woman doesn't feel like she likes it that day. But, oh, yeah, half your income's going to be gone. You guys to pay. No, this is not good for guys, man.
No.
This is I mean, and for those, most of us are in their 40s or later. For those, look at the younger people. They're seeing this shit and they are scared shitless. A lot of these guys, at least. Yeah. It's crazy with that stuff, man. I don't. Go back to the dishes on the sink thing. I remember reading that. It's 2016, and a lot of chicks latched onto it, and a lot of guys were like, "Fuck this bullshit." Let me find out what I was going to say about it because it was pretty good. I think. Hold on.
Yeah. If you don't mind, I just want to point out real quick. I don't want to like push back on the like unfair to dudes thing. I do think it's unfair to guys, but if women happen to be the providers, if she's like a surgeon or like managing partner of a law firm or CEO of her company, she's the one who gets fucked financially in the divorce. It's like, it's not exclusively like a dude thing. It tends to be whoever made the most money. And most of the time in most relationships that are man-woman, woman stays home with children because that's just the way it fucking works out. So anyway,
Don't get me wrong too. There's exceptions for everything, but like, I mean, what's in the best interest of the child is such a gray area, and every custody case is so different. And honestly, I don't think we put enough emphasis on not degrading people when it comes to this stuff. Because I mean, it's a divorce and custody hearings are negative by nature, but like they get so negative to like. I mean, a person's going to nitpick. Oh, here's a pile of clothes she left off. That proves she's an unfit mother. Nobody wants to get this kind of nitpick. They put kids in the middle of this. These little innocent kids, they're not trying to hear that shit. They just want to play and have mommy and daddy there. They don't, So sometimes as parents, you got to suck some things up, man. Put the dishes on the sink stuff. Now, like I'll read what I wrote because it makes no sense. Shit like this gets guys fired up. Like, how could you not turn into a complete misogynist when seeing something like this, especially if you're going through something bitter? You know what I mean? And I got buddies, some right now being raked over the coals. There's a skewed system as I see it. So what was the inspiration for this post? And to twist it to where it doesn't make guys seem like completely demasculated assholes, because bro, society is trending completely away from the wholesome stuff. And it used to be, ran by a bunch of selfish morons. What do you think about that? I mean, so break it down to where guys can navigate this, not get divorced, not seem like complete pussies, because women like providers, women like confident guys. It's just a matter of completely ignoring the stupid shit they say and just rolling with it. Is that what these women want? What's the deal, man?
Yeah. If I could go back in time to January 2016, I would have written it, I think, more effectively than I did at the time. Lally, I'll start there. But most importantly, like every single relationship, everybody listening has a air quotes dish by the sink in their relationship. It might be, well, who knows? Like, I'd be really curious. Like, I don't know how many people are watching or listening, but I'd really be curious, like, what the one or two things are that they feel like their wives or relationship partners, whoever it is, like nags them about all the time. Here's the story I tell today in my coaching work about the dish by the sink. Because my take at the time, when I'm in my 20s, when I'm in my early 30s, and my wife is giving me shit about leaving. By the way, and I want to be really specific about what it was. It was a drinking glass. It was like I would take like medicine, vitamins, whatever in the morning. And then I would take this thing that had water in it and I would put it by the sink to use later. This wasn't like a fucking plate of spaghetti with like a bunch of shit all over it. You know what I mean? This was like this really innocuous fucking glass with water in it that I'm like, I'm going to use later. I'm like, I understand if you want to keep like the room really clean and if guests are coming over and you don't want to look like we're a bunch of pigs, like I will put it in the dishwasher then, of course. But how about the rest of the time we chill out about it and I leave this glass here? Whatever. And she's like, hey, this just really matters to me. Could you please do it for me? And I was kind of like, fuck you. Like, no, how about you let me do things my way? And that was the thing we fought about. Here's how I tell the story today. When I walked into the kitchen in the morning or in the afternoon or whatever, and the glass that I set by the sink wasn't there, I never hurt. Nothing bad happened to me. I didn't feel pain. I went to the cabinet, I got a glass, I took care of shit. It was fine. Problem solved. Like, it was fine. It was a non-event. When my wife walked into the kitchen, regardless of how fair anybody thinks this is, regardless of how rational you or I think this is, my wife experienced pain. Because the glass being there could only mean one of two things. It either meant, fuck you, you're not my mom, you're not my boss, and when what I want comes into conflict with what you want, I choose me over you. And that's how it's always going to be in our marriage. I choose me over you. Could have meant that, didn't, could have. The other thing it could have meant was I was too busy to even think about you at all. This is so insignificant to me that it's essentially invisible. Like, it's not even relevant. I don't take the moment it takes to even realize you give a fuck about this, no matter how many times you tell me. And that's what ends trust in marriage. Not overnight, but over 10, 15, 20 years. This consistent experience of when I'm married to somebody and I'm like, hey, this thing's fucking me up. This thing sucks. And the other person's like, because I don't think what you think or feel what you feel, I'm not going to honor this totally different way that you experience it. That, in my estimation, is what ends marriage, and it's what I coach about. And it's, to me, encapsulated pretty well by this dish by the sink conversation. It's not that the dish matters. Fuck the dish. It's not that leaving the toilet seat up matters. Fuck the toilet seat. It's not that the pair of jeans I used to throw on this like piece of furniture in our room that she used to give me shit about. She's like, can you just put them in your closet, please, and not leave them on this chair? And I'm like, it's our bedroom. Who fucking cares if there's like jeans on the chair? It matters because over and over again, whenever what I wanted came into conflict with what she wanted, I chose me over her, and that will end your shit inevitably. Down the road, or at minimum, even if you guys make it, it'll just be full of conflict and toxicity and a bunch of shit nobody likes. So that's what I'm coaching about. It's not about doing what the other person wants. It's about trusting them to respect all the things that matter to you, and them being able to trust you to respect all the things that matter to them. Inevitably, you have to compromise once in a while on like how to punish the kids, or I don't like the word punish, how to like discipline or parent your kids. Oh, yeah. You know what I mean? Like, just there's going to be things in life that you're not going to agree about. But if there's enough trust there that this person looks out for me, and it shows up because I'm not leaving evidence all the time that I don't give a shit about you, that I'm just going to do what I want, that's the difference in my estimation between healthy and unhealthy relationships. And again, that doesn't apply to like dating and like early relationships and, you know, like the red pill stuff. Like I don't think it aligns in any way with like my work. My work is rooted in what happens in year 7, 10, 15 of your marriage.
Bottom line, communication. I mean, the toilet seat thing makes me laugh because it's like we don't really if you got to pee, put the toilet seat up. I always tell chicks, I'm like, is it really worth bitching about this? That's it. Half a second motion. That's all we're asking here. Half a second motion. As a woman, are you going to tell me that you're that incapable of going like this? You're a powerful, strong boss lady. You can go like this. The dishes thing, I always made me laugh because I've seen chicks, you know, they've done that. They've ended relationships over dishes. I'm like, in my house, if there's dishes, we just do them. It's not that big a deal. At the end of the day, we probably just let the dishes sit there because who the fuck's coming over? And, you know, life is too short to do dishes all the time. You know what I mean? So bottom line is communication, man, in my opinion. I mean, if you don't communicate with people and your shoulder, your outlet is somebody else, it's gonna, you gotta let shit go too as a human being. I mean, if there's something that really irritates you, whatever, man. I mean, we just smoke some weed and forget about it. That's what I do. I get yelled at. I mean, whatever, you know, there's shit that happens to people. One person's abuse is another person's random Tuesday. You know what I mean? It's like that. And I find the most of these relationships that don't work. I mean, I'm not a relationship coach. Don't listen to me about anything about relationships, but you know, most of the ones that don't work, it's just bottom line pure selfishness and non-communication. I mean, when you break it down to its core, that's it. People just don't talk. How you doing? How you doing, sweetie? I'm fine. And I'll tell them. And don't expect me to, infer something. Guys are analytical. You tell me I'm fine. I'm going to assume you're fine. We're going to go, to Cedar Point. We're going to go to the beach, whatever. We're going to do operations normal. If something's wrong, tell me. Don't tell somebody else. Tell me because I could probably fix it. I'm the person right here. The person down the street isn't going to help you because they're not living here. And there's a big difference between somebody wanting to bang you and somebody wanting to move you in and make you their life partner. That's just my opinion.
It's really funny. And we can have, I don't want to like bog this fucker down with like nuanced communication conversation. But again, it's another thing that guys feel like I pick on them about. But I don't think men are extraordinary at the relationship conversation.
Oh, yeah. A lot of guys, I don't know. I mean, every guy's different. And you can't, the thing is that you can't, there's no manual for this. You just got to kind of wing it. I mean, every relationship you're going to have is going to be different. It's not fair to the current partner if you're bringing the past trauma into the relationship. They're not trying to hear that shit. I don't give a fuck about your ex. I'm focused on us. You know what I mean? So, drink some bourbon, do some shrooms, whatever you got to do to forget that trauma and let's roll because I'm not trying to hear it. All right, let's get into some more lighthearted stuff, man. Browns, we're diehards.
No. Oh, yeah, really lighthearted. Are you fucking kidding me? We're going to go from divorce to Browns.
And later on, we'll talk about, abusing kids. We're going to keep it very negative here.
You're going to make me sadder talking about the Browns.
The factory has said this. Now, let's start back. You're a couple years younger than me. Do you remember the drive and fumble? What were you doing then?
Yeah. I mean, I was little. I was crying like a little sissy on the floor.
I did too.
I was bawling, and my mom was yelling at me, and she was yelling at my stepdad. Like, you taught him this. Like, to, give a shit about, like, millionaire professional football players. The fact that they are as emotionally relevant as, like, my closest family and friends is probably an illness, but I think almost everybody here probably shares the sickness. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I fucking love them like family, and week one broke my heart.
Dude,
Again, it's not the loss. It's like, and you know the difference. It's like the manner in which we lost. So yes, I have like early childhood trauma, so to speak, from John Elway. I think so.
dude, my whole life I always joked, Brown Super Bowls could be bigger than anything else, graduating the military, marriage, anything else, kids. And people laugh, but I mean, the heart wants what it wants. I've been a Browns fan since I was able to pay attention to football. From the second I was old enough to pay attention to shit, I love football. And we got some UK people, NFL football, not your Premier League stuff. That's called soccer. Well, that's a whole nother stream you do from Captain Everybody listening. But I remember I would just get so emotional as a kid. I think they actually this makes me laugh. I think one time they actually took me to a counselor because I was so like I actually did go to a counselor because I would just get so angry when the Browns would fuck up, and even the Indians too, and the whatever. So I got so involved in sports, man, and a lot of that really took over my shit, man. I remember one time I was going out with this girl named Mandy, right? She's passed away, rest in peace, Mandy. But it was back in 2003, and the Browns had lost on this horrible ass missed field goal, some bullshit. And we were living in Parma, me and her were living together. And I was on Pleasant Valley Road, and there was like fucking 9 cars in front of me. And I had a bunch of beers in me, and I wasn't thinking right. But I literally got up on the curve and drove up on some grass and took a hard left because I was so fucking hot at what the Browns were doing. And that's a mental illness. And as a Browns fan, I mean, we kind of all do have mental illnesses. You don't get punched in the face 800 times and come back for the 801st time. Be like, oh, it's going to change this time. You know what I mean? So, like, when the Browns were moving in 95, you was a sophomore. What was you doing? What was your thought process? How'd that hit you, man?
Honestly, this is a funny story that no one's going to give a shit about. But I told you my dad lived in Illinois.
Right.
I lived with him for one school year of my entire life. One only. And it was my junior year of high school. So it was my first season without the Browns. So I was like, in this weird way, I was like insulated, like psychologically from like year one of it. And think about like where I was in my life. So I moved away for 1 year, my junior year. It was a really cool adventure living with dad. But I was like, ultimately, I'm going to come back and graduate with my boys. And you know what I mean? With the kids I've been growing up with my whole life. Came back to Ohio for senior year. Senior year is an extraordinary time. I don't want to speak for everybody. Some people hate high school. I loved it. We had a lot of fun senior year. And then I go to college. I go to the University of Toledo and have the time of my life. So like, it was fucking awful, but at least it was literally the most fun possible years because I was never too sad. You know, there was always a party. There was always like something cool to go to.
That 95 when they moved, that was the year I graduated high school, man. It was a crazy year overall. To encapsulate my 95, bro, I graduated high school, but I was drunk. They wouldn't let me walk across the stage because I was too drunk. I ended up, that was when I signed up for the service too. And I caught a DUI right before I was supposed to leave for the service, right? So it was like August 95. It was the night of the Rock Hall induction ceremony, if you remember that. I got a DUI and I ended up, but it was still in court when I was supposed to ship off. So I told the judge, I was like, yo, I'm going to the military. Can we do this when we get back? It's like, I don't know, it was the guard. It wasn't like active duty. So I'd be back in 10 weeks. She's like, yeah, that's fine. So I get down there and I hated basic training, man. I was trying to get out because I'm lazy and shit. And I was like, yo, I brought it up. I was talking with the guard liaison and I brought it up and he's like, well, since you're guard, we're going to keep you. If you were active duty, we kick you out. And that started me getting away with this DUI a month before basic training started a whole life of enabling. I know it's a hard right from the Brown stuff, but I got away with so much shit, dude. It's ridiculous. But I was in basic. I was supposed to ship out like September 10th or whatever. The Browns, that announcement dropped like that day I was supposed to ship out. And I get down to MEPS, Military Entrance Processing Station. Yeah. And I was too fat. I fucking didn't weigh in right, so I didn't get to go. So they kicked it down the line, and I eventually made weight. But I was so from this, and this is when the Indians were fucking finally getting to the ALC. They were doing stuff too. So the Indians were in the World Series. I'm sitting here waiting this basic training day, trying to lose weight. And then I go down to basic training, and they end up, I remember back then they were talking about the Buccaneers coming here, all kinds of stupid shit. And then I graduate basic training like in '96. That's the day the Steelers and the Cowboys won the Super Bowl. So I'm sitting here watching all these Steelers guys waving their flags. And my team's moving. Oh, that was fucking horrible. Man, I'm not gonna lie. That still irks me, dude. I talked to Chuck Galletti a couple years ago, and we talked about it. I mean, of all the things to happen, man, and a lot of you guys might think this is ridiculous, but to have your team physically taken from you, the team that you've supported, and you get these shitty ass fucking season ticket holder hats that do not fit. This is on the highest setting. I just did a video about this. This is the highest setting. You put up with this inept ass ownership, and then the team moves to a completely different fucking city, and then they go on to win 2 Super Bowls, and you get an expansion team. This is the fuck divorce. I can have 5 divorces. The being a Brown fan is 10 times worse than divorce. I will say I take that to my grave. The Jimmy Haslam, if you're ever out there, maybe the algorithm will pick up me catching, talking about Jimmy Haslam. You can hear it. Jimmy Haslam, you're a piece of shit. Sell the fucking team. Nobody wants you here. Bye. And it sucks, Matt, because we have no control of this ownership. I'm not a billionaire. I can't buy the Browns, and I got to root for whatever they put out there. And it really sucks when you talk about, we defended this guy Watson. I spent a year and a half talking about the nuances of, butthole tickling, whatever the fuck he did. And now this jackass comes out here and lays an egg. Watson, if you're listening, buddy, I know you're not, but this is just a rant. But, dude, get your shit together and fucking bring us a win. I'm predicting 37-10 we're going to lose on Sunday just because I got no hope right now. Until they prove me otherwise, I got no hope. Sorry.
I like to think it's not going to be 37-10, but, yeah, we could use a win in Jacksonville tomorrow. Hey, going back to the 90s, though, there's this element. I was just explaining this to my girlfriend the other day. Back in 95, if you remember, we had 2 expansion teams come into the league. Ironically, the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Carolina Panthers. And they sucked ass in their first year. But if all the football fans will remember, in year 2 of their existence, they both made the conference finals.
Both of them
And
did.
So we're in the midst of this, waiting for the Browns to come back thing. Because it didn't take us too long to find out we were going to get the Browns back. Team name, team colors. And so I was stoked. I'm like, fuck yeah, we're going to get the Browns back. And we're going to get the same setup that the Panthers and the Jags did. In year 2, they were in the conference title game. Things are going to be cool. Remember, we were getting all the Niners guys from those great 80s Niners teams like DeBartolo and shit.
Dwight Clark for the GM, yeah.
This is going to be fucking great. We're going to kick ass. And then we were so bad. 51 zip, opening night, Steelers, I believe. And we just were fucking awful for a really long time.
2 and 14.
I don't know. That was just that's what I remember. We had 3 seasons of competent football in about 20 years until this sort of Stefanski era where shit's not all the way right, but I got to tell you, it's been, as a Browns fan, I am grateful for the last few seasons. It's been a hell of a lot better than the previous 20.
It's been a little bit better, but it's been annoying. These past 3 off seasons as a fan have just drained me, dude. Fuck alive. I'm sick of, maybe it's just because I'm chronically online, but I really don't have to pay attention to it. But I like talking football, and then you talk football to people, and it's I just want a year where I can clap back. The Browns haven't won a division title since 1989, bro. I was 12. I got gray beards and kids and grandkids and shit now in a moderately successful YouTube show. It's been a long fucking time, man. Just basic competence. This stadium was built in 1999. And it's 2023 right now. We have not had one home playoff game in that entire time. What are the math? We're guys. We're good at math. What are the fucking odds on that? Gee, that's 0.0001%.
We had 2 almost. We had the run Willie run game against the Falcons. That was a de facto sort of playoff-ish game. And then was it beating the Jets last year?
Oh no, playoffs last year.
No, not playoffs. But it was it served as a meaningful home game for the fans where we accomplished a thing. And the fans got to celebrate with the team. There's only been 2 of those home games. And,
even the playoff win in 2021, the 2020 season was the COVID year, and that was in Pittsburgh, and there was no fans there, so we couldn't even go to that. Yeah. All things said, I'm glad I didn't spend the money to go down to Houston last playoff year because I had tickets for if there was 3 places you're going to play and they could have played in the playoffs. It was Houston, Jacksonville, Indy. I had tickets for Indy in case they went. I like that stadium in Indy, man. It's a nice one. I wish we get the dome like that, man. Ford Field and the one in Indianapolis. Those are the models. Yeah, I really like it.
Well, I've been to the one in Minneapolis at US Bank Stadium for a Vikings-Browns game, and those are the contractors that are attached to this project, that Brook Park project. And I want to be careful. I don't want to bother anybody who's like diehard fuck you, leave it in Cleveland. But regardless of location, I like the concept of a year-round building. I do.
Well, it's hard getting out of Brown State, getting in and out. I mean, it's a cluster, dude. It's I'm older. I can walk. The wife can walk, but she's not as mobile as me. And it, just to get to the nearest parking garage, you go walk clear past the Rock Hall, clear past the Science Center. It takes you a good 10 minutes. And then don't mention the claustrophobia of leaving. Dude, we went to that SummerSlam. The wife's a big wrestling fan too. That's the thing I suck up a little bit to appease the wife. I mean, because it's harmless. Do I watch wrestling on my own? Probably not. But if she wants to go, I'll take her. Whatever. It's not the worst thing in the world. It's not like it's fucking opera or some shit. But like we were leaving that WWE SummerSlam, and man, it was so claustrophobic. I'm 6'3", so like I like stepping it out. I'm a very fast walker, and for me to sit there behind people in the crowd and half step pretty much, dude, that's fun. Oh, I hate that, man. But you get a place like Ford Field or wherever, even Jacobs Progressive Field and the Q and all that, you can just drop off many entrances. There's only 2 funnels, dude, and that's dangerous. I don't like it.
Yeah, I've got behind my camera here. I've got a one, just like a home projection screen, like a 110-inch screen, and I honestly like watching the games better there than going anymore. But that's a function of being old, though. It's like and not wanting to, it's like old guy shit. Like when I was young, I loved being at the stadium.
I'm a big I still got the season tickets. I say every year, oh, this is gonna be last year, and then something in the off season will trigger it, and I'm like, oh yeah, let me get one more year, and I always regret it because like I paid, I don't know what the seat cost, $80-$90, but then you look at game time prices and it's fucking $2 or $20. Yeah, just really low prices and shit's ridiculous. We're damn ridiculous. All right, predict what do you think is gonna be the game on Sunday? What do you think we're gonna do?
Are you fucking kidding me? I mean, I want to believe we can win, but probably a tight one, right? Probably like a 3 to 6 pointer, something like that.
Right.
What's Vegas? Do you know what the line is? Is it Jacksonville by 3?
Yeah, it is Jacksonville exactly by 3. Yeah.
Okay. And so, I mean, Vegas is pretty good, but I'd like to think we can win a squeaker, but I don't know what the fuck's going on with Deshaun. I heard the stuff about his friend passing and about his dad passing, and I want to believe that's a factor, but I'm sorry. His throwing motion looks like the same. It looks like fucking me. Like, I'm not a competent NFL quarterback, but I saw Deshaun Watson light the world on fire for a few seasons in Houston. I've never seen it. We talked about it briefly, like on Facebook the other day. Like Russell Wilson is like the only case study I've seen where he was like consistently amazing and then inexplicably like sucked in like a new environment, near as I could tell. And then I even thought like Sean Payton would resurrect his career. That didn't work out at all. I really thought Deshaun Watson would at worst be, like
middle of the pack. He's like the worst in the league.
Quarterback. Exactly. Yeah, and he's really been, aside from a couple of games where he used his feet a lot, specifically the Baltimore game last year, he hasn't been very good.
Some people
pretty bad.
Some people say his shoulder's never going to recover. We'll see, man.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into some ridiculous questions because we're still around here. All right, how long could you sit at a library and do nothing before you fell asleep?
A fucking library?
Yeah.
I'm not allowed to read or anything?
No, just sit there in a chair in a library. How long before you fall asleep?
Jeez, I might end my life before I fall asleep. That's a really good question. I probably make it like 2 or 3 hours.
Okay, it'd probably be like 15 minutes for me because I'm high all the time. Well, that's a good question. Are all those bottles of liquor? Is that a wallpaper? Or is that actual liquor?
No, it's bourbon. I'm a bourbon enthusiast.
Okay.
They're all bottles. No, I collect bourbon and rye. I like it. I'm one of like the nerds that like sit around doing like bourbon tastings with people and shit.
There's a bunch of bourbon channels you got to check out, man. There's all kinds. Yeah. Well, you probably already follow them, but
I follow. There's a guy in Columbus named Jason C. the Match and Drum who's fucking great, and anybody who really likes bourbon that likes to support Ohioans should pay attention to him.
I can't remember the last time I even had bourbon. In my life, probably 3 times. I mean, I don't drink anymore, but fuck, yeah, I was always a beer guy. I mean, the bourbon shots. Just I'm a man of excess, dude. Everything I do is excessive. Like that's what I like about weed. It's self-regulating. Like you can smoke weed all day and fucking. When you're, do you smoke at all? Do you partake?
I was a cigarette smoker for like 15 years of my life, and I don't want to smoke cigarettes anymore. So I don't smoke weed anymore. But I partake in the edible game.
A lot of people do it. I got to get you some cookies. Do you like my chocolate chip cookies? This is a couple comments. You look like people say you look like a punk rocker. What are you a Green Day fan? Music? What kind of music you popping here? Are you pretty much like everybody in Ohio? We listen to everything.
I mean, I'm not. I again don't like offending people. I'm not a huge fan of country music. I liked it. I liked it in the '90s. Like, I liked the kind of Garth Brooks and Dunn days, like a little bit. But a function of that was like I had a really conservative mom who wouldn't let me listen to like all the coolest shit. So I had to listen to like mom-friendly music like some of the time. That was probably the reason I even like dabbled in country back then. But I like everything. Alternative rock and rap music are probably my two favorite things. But my favorite era of music is that like '90s grunge era, that like Stone Temple Pilots, Soundgarden, Nirvana, Pearl Jam, like Alice in Chains. Like those are my favorite bands in my history.
Hell yeah, it's funny with the music thing because like my parents, they liked. My mom was a big Beach Boys fan, and we shared a lot of music coming up because a kid in the '80s, so we listened to a lot of the metal together. But my kids, my music is very, hard. I'm a hard rock, metal, rap, gangster rap kind of thing. So like my kids, and my daughter especially, I got 14, 15 now. And my daughter, Nikki, she wears all my old shirts and shit like that. Like our playlists are literally intertwined. Like she listens to all my shit. I listen to all her shit. It's kind of funny. Is your kid like that? You got a boy who's a junior. I got a sophomore and a freshman. Does he kind of share the same taste in life as you, or what's the deal there?
No. He doesn't. I couldn't get him to love sports, team sports. Like he won't like watch games with me. It's honestly, I don't want to speak ill of him. He's my favorite thing in this world. But he won't like sit and watch ball. And that was like my fantasy was like have a son and like go to Browns games. And he's like, "Fuck you, Dad. I don't like it that much." It's awful. But it was just how. I think if we had been the Chiefs when he was little, he'd be like a diehard. But we fucking lost constantly. And he's like, "Dad, we sucked all the time." It was so embarrassing. He plays tennis. He goes to St. Vincent St. Mary, where like LeBron's high school.
Okay.
So no, but he is a rap like savant. Not that he can do it, like he can't fucking rap. He's just a little white kid. But his like library, like encyclopedia knowledge of like the history of rap music is fucking extraordinary. Like going back to like before us, like just the earliest days of like Grandmaster Flash and stuff. He knows like all the hip hop trees, and he's something else. I don't know how he latched onto it because I'm not like a diehard. I just like it, but he like studies.
Bro, it's the same way with me. These young kids just don't like team sports the way we do. My kids could not give one fuck about football. By the time I was Jimmy's age, 14, I knew every Browns player going back to the 60s. Guys like Dante Glue-Fingers Lavelli and shit like that. It's just but these kids tend to do focus. My son's about Pokemon in that whole realm. He can tell you everything about the Pokemon. Oh my God! I was like, how many Pokemon are there? And he's like, well, there's 586 total Pokemon if you consider all the series. And there's 82 water types. And I'm like, can you focus this on somebody can make us some money here? Let's go, man.
No, that's funny. And I still am guilty because that was the shit we made fun of like when we were kids. Like, and I try not to be that way as like a mid-40s guy. Like I'm not like into bullying, but it was the shit we made fun of, like with the kids at school that did that. That's not that way now. Like, I'm really glad. But my son likes, he like dabbles and all that stuff too. He was part of the Pokemon generation. He's a 16-year-old junior. So yeah, video games, Pokemon, like all the Japanese shit that I was too late for that. We didn't really have Japanese shit when we were kids.
Oh, dude, my son wants to go to Japan so bad. We'll probably end up doing it. It's probably going to be a graduation present, something like that. But he's I don't know what it is, Japan. It probably started back with that Vapor song. I'm turning Japanese, really think so. And then it just kept going with the late 80s Pokemon and the Digimon and all that other stuff. I remember this triggered another memory. I remember back in 99, we were, my buddy had this camcorder. Because back then, cell phones couldn't take videos, obviously. For those of you under 20, cell phones could not take videos back then. But we had this thing called a camcorder, right? And we would just walk around. And I remember saying, back in 99, that Pokemon was a Japanese subplot to take over American youth. And man, it probably worked. But then they're not having babies in Japan, so who knows? Do you think that's a crisis? That's a random ass question, but a lot of people this fractured family thing, and a lot of there's just not a lot of people having kids anymore. And I know it's probably, we were just talking about how it's successful to keep relationships together after the kid, but like, how do we solve that kid crisis, man? It's not just America; it's all over. Is it? Yeah. We're focusing too much on education. How do we even get out of this?
Well, and I'd like to know. So, right, I like to be really careful about not acting like I know shit about things I don't know shit about. I like to ask questions instead of acting like I know. My question would be: is it economic? Is it like in today's economy? Is it so expensive to have children because both parents need to work more than ever? Maybe in Japan just as much as here in the U.S. That they're like, our life will suck ass if we have a kid financially, so we're going to choose not to do it. Which, I mean, the advice I always heard was you'll find a way. And that has thus far sort of like bore out like in my life. But I honestly don't know what the fuck I'd do with 3 kids. Like my son would not be at St. Vincent St. Mary if I had 3 that I had to send to St. Vincent St. Mary. I'm like stressed as hell about college. Coming up here pretty soon. 3 would be really hard. Did you say you have 2 kids?
I got 3. I got a stepdaughter. Okay, she's 20. Yeah. Stepdaughter's 26, 27. She has 2 babies. One's 5, one's 2, 4, 5. I always forget their ages. And then I got the 2 kids that live at home. One's 14, one's 15. And they both go to Holy Name High School. That Ed Choice grant that the governor passed is pretty nice, huh? Because normally tuition at Holy Name was like $11,000 per kid or whatever. And then they passed that Ed Choice grant. I only paid $5,000 for 2 kids, bro. That was great.
I don't know about that, and I need to. I am like pretty ADHD, and so is my son. Like, I'm not on top of cool shit like that. Is that something I need to look into?
It depends what your income is, but you take it. I think it was 4 times the Ohio poverty level. So if it's 100, you make 150 or less, I think you qualify for it. And it's a good grant, dude. It's like $8,000 of the tuition, man. I'll have to drop you the info. And college for me is great for the kids because I was in the service, and there's this thing called the Ohio War Orphans Grant, and they're not war orphans, but it applies to vets who are 60% or higher on the disabled chart, so they get to go to any state school for like a nice discount. So that part works out good. That's where I kind of in 2018 I kind of switched gears because in 2018 is when I started doing comedy. I was being reckless, dude. I was drinking and driving, fucking going to these comedy shows, had a couple girlfriends, shit like just horrible shit. I mean, we were probably gonna. But then, man, everything it kind of intertwines all with the Browns, dude. I remember it was the Browns were playing the Raiders 2018, and we lost that game 45-42. And that next day, I literally ended up in the VA because I had an appointment to begin with, and I was just sitting there with my couch. I was like, I'm fucking done with this bullshit because I was all hungover and this and that. I ended up doing a couple days inpatient at the VA, and that was when I really got it. And it didn't come all at once. That's another thing with all these relationships is that shit takes time, man. If you got somebody who's had this mindset for 15 years about you, and it's not going to change overnight, you're going to have to let it time. I think, with the dating stuff, man, is a lot of people, they don't put the time into it. You got to get to know somebody. They want the quick fix. They want the endorphin rush. They don't want to, just analytically, is this person going to be a good fit for me? Probably not. It's not worth the, good 3 months for the next, 18 years of suffering. I mean, I don't know.
As an impulsive ADHD person, I can relate to sacrificing the future for right now. Like I make a lot of those decisions in my life, and I have forever. But I mean, healthy relationships it's all like the super smart financial people that are like get rich slowly. Like do X, Y, and Z starting when you're 18, and you're going to be in really great shape when you're in your 50s. You're either the kind of person who does that or not. If you're the kind of person who does that, I hope that you approach relationships that way. It's the long game. It's like making tiny sacrifices every day so that shit doesn't suck when you're older. And
amen, right?
Instead of like, I want this like super hot, but like a little bit crazy, like person right now.
And past relationships are indicative of future results, in my opinion. I know that's not a lot of some people are just fucking toxic. They will never get there. I mean, it's mathematically impossible to date 15 narcissists in a row. I'm just going to say it like that. Either you have a type or it's you. Bottom line. All right. What is your favorite airline you've been on, and what is your least favorite?
Well, that's really funny. I don't want to pick on anybody. I have a bias I can't explain with United. Like I just like United. I can't explain it. I don't know why. They're not fundamentally better than Delta or fucking anybody else. My only like super shit flying experience was Spirit. I don't want to pick on them because a lot of people think Spirit's great. The one time I flew Spirit from Hopkins to Orlando, It just sucked ass. It was just like a shitty flight. The seats sucked. The people sucked. There's no service. It's like $17,000 for like a shitty thing. You know what I mean? They're like, here, you can have this thing, but you'll pay for it, and you'll pay a lot for it. And it was like the equivalent of like a $30 McDonald's toy from like the 80s. It's like, I'm not doing that.
My son hates Spirit Airlines. He's only probably, I'm trying to think where else he's flown. He was 3, we flew to Disney World, but we've been to the Virgin Islands 3 times. And he hates Spirit. To this day, he's like, if you're booking it, don't book it on Spirit. And I'll tell you what, man, the way the airlines have done it recently with this basic economy, oh my God, that makes me want to run for office and pass legislation. It's so bad. We were in the last seat of the plane, and I shit you not, I put my hand out. It was this far from the seat back to the thing. Bro, I was literally sitting there like this. There's nothing I can do. If I go like this, I hit the guy. I go like this, I hit the girl. It is mind-bogglingly small. That is an insult to people who's not, 5'9" and $150. I mean, if you're any bigger or smaller than that, oh my gosh, fuck, it's bad. It sucks. I mean, with these flights, I'm gonna have to pay more. I can't sit in these seats, these basic economy seats anymore. It's just not happening, dude. No way. All right. What is the last time you were at the zoo?
I went to the Akron Zoo with my girlfriend and my son last fall. That was the last time I was at the zoo. And Akron Zoo, for all you guys that are like up in Cuyahoga County, Akron Zoo's not shit. It's worth the trip if you got little kids and you're tired of going to the Cleveland Zoo over and over again, or the Arboretum or whatever.
Dude, it's funny because like Akron is right down the road. About 50 minutes. I can count on one hand the amount of times I've been to Akron. I just, for some reason, don't go to Akron. I don't know why.
Do you get down to Canton for the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, I get down to Canton every now and then for the Hall of Fame, and we were down there for some kind of show. I went to college at Kent, so I was, I've been in that area quite a bit. But yeah, for some reason, Akron just wasn't. Oh, the Toledo thing makes me, because you're about the same age. We might have partied out in Toledo the same era. What was that guy's name? I had a buddy in the garden, Justin Funk. He was out there in Toledo.
That name rings a bell because whose last name's Funk? But I don't want to own it. Like, I don't want to just like agree. That rings a bell. But I don't want to be like, I know for sure who that is.
Toledo was probably 3rd on my college list. It was Kent, BG, and Toledo was up there. Maybe Cleveland State, but because I was older when I went to school. I was like 23 because I went to this refrigeration school back in '97 for HVAC tech. Okay. And then I got a job at the skating rink. This is before I had glasses, and they ended up letting me go because I was fucking up the ice on the Zamboni. But then, like right after that, I got another DUI, so I couldn't. There's no way a refrigeration truck company is going to hire a guy with 2 DUIs to run a truck. So I had to pivot and go. That's when I started going to college. That whole time though, I was still in the Guard. I mean, I started the Guard in '95, got out in 2015. But it was funny. They never said anything about half this shit. I had 2 DUIs while I was in the service. They didn't say one thing. I did 10 days in jail while I was still in the Guard, and they're just like, oh yeah, whatever. I think I had security clearance. I had to talk about it, and that was it. It was weird.
My senior year, I met with somebody with the Air Force National Guard because I was strongly considering Toledo had like an Air Guard unit up there, the 180th Fighter Wing, and I was like, I'm gonna go check that out. And I met with the guy, and he's like interviewing me at this restaurant, and he just asked me about like recreational drug use, and I told him how many times like I'd tried shrooms and I'd smoked weed. And I just was honest. I just thought not lying about it was the right thing to do. And he literally, like, they rejected me. Nups was like, fuck you, you're not good enough. Because I was, like, honest about being, like, 18, 19 and having shrooms a couple of times and smoking weed, admittedly, a shitload of times. But so anyway, that surprises me that they didn't care about DUIs.
Yeah, it's funny. That's why it's all, I don't know, it's kind of, people always say, Matt, that, just do your business and keep your head down, don't talk to people. The more people you talk to, the more people you know, the more people it's harder for them to get rid of you. So when you go to work, man, make friends with everybody, dude. I don't give it the janitor, fucking person around the lunch counter. Just say hi. You don't have to move in with them and fucking take them on a vacation to Virginia Beach. Just get to know them. Hey, how's the kids? People love that little stuff, man. If there's 2 people and they're looking to get rid of somebody, and they got this guy who just sits there and is kind of like all day, and they got this guy who's really popular, and and it's fun to be around. It makes the workday pleasant. It goes back to the relationship thing. You make the environment around you more pleasant. People are more likely to be with you, man. They like you. You gotta be nice out there. Maybe be nice with that shit.
And I hear you. Some people have a really hard time with it, and I try to be cool about it. Like, I have a pretty easy time getting along with everybody. I've never had like a problem with it. But it turns out some people are really uncomfortable in like a crowd of people, and they come off like dicks, but really they're just like a little bit afraid. And I try not to be a dick about it.
All right, what drugs that are illegal do you think should be legal?
Oh, that's a really good question. Honestly, weed's the only thing I would have like gone to the mat for. Like, I always thought that was absurd that we lived in a country where we legalized alcohol, but had marijuana be illegal. I'm not inclined to like champion anything else. I've also never found legality to be a roadblock to like acquiring shit. I honestly have not. Like, that's the extent of my drug use is shrooms 5 or 6 times in college. I tried LSD 1 time. I've smoked weed countless times, but that's
Your resume is about the same as mine.
Pretty mild. No coke, like nothing. And that's
I
like
never did anything
everybody's tried coke.
Right. I never did anything that was like an instant felony. Because I mean, when we were coming up to crack and cocaine, it was like, there's never been glamorous crack use, but like if you get caught with just a tiny little thing, you're fucking going to jail. Like I guess a felony 5 for a coke possession. I mean, I
didn't know that.
Yeah, so that's why I've done shrooms a couple times. I haven't done shrooms in a minute though. I still got a stock over there because like I do that, man. You got to clear your whole day, dude. And it's like because when you're high, you can drive. It's whatever. You go to work. But when you're on shrooms, you cannot drive. To you're just like nope. Because the shrooms, they're kind of self-regulating too. They'll tell you do not need to be driving, sir. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, yeah, that's 6 to 8 hours of just kind of hanging out.
Oh fuck! I gotta do some more shrooms. All right. When was the last time you used a vacuum cleaner?
Oh wow! I mean, not like, considering I have a house and I'm an adult. Not soon enough. Not recently enough. I like vacuum the kitchen like once every like 2 to 3 weeks. It's about like, and then I probably like vacuum like an adult, like the rest of the house, like once every like 2 months. It's really bad. Like I'm really shitty about like house cleaning habits. What I need to do is invest in like a service.
I told the wife that I was like, we can do whatever. We got a lot of shit to throw away, but let's agree that after this shit is cleaned up, we're gonna get somebody to come in here because I'm fucking done cleaning. I'm too old for that shit. All right, we got a question from Lady C. She says, Matthew, how do I deal with someone wanting to assume the worst instead of accepting the truth?
What I think I hear her saying is that when she says, hey, X, Y, and Z conditions in our relationship are shitty, he probably gets defensive. And I want to do 2 parts here. I want to like defend both people. The person is defensive because they feel like they're a good person. They feel like they sacrifice a lot for their wife, for their marriage, for their family. They work hard to not have affairs, to not commit domestic violence, to not be verbally abusive, to not do all these things. And they're like, I'm a good person. And all the other people, all my friends, all my family, all my coworkers, everybody acts like I'm a good person. The one person who complains about me is my wife. Like, what the fuck is going on? That's how I used to feel, and I totally get it. On the flip side, my coaching is about you cannot be defensive. When you're either the kind of person who doesn't want your spouse to endure stuff that sucks for them, or you're the kind of person who doesn't give a fuck about the things that they're dealing with if you don't also care. And like that's, we didn't get into the nuance of conversation, but I don't think men historically are very good at it. And I'll try to give like the briefest of Cliff's Notes version of this because I don't want to like bore everybody with like relationship shit. But relationship conversations 101. One partner, usually the wife in male-female relationships, goes to the other, usually your husband, and says, hey, something sucks for me. Something feels bad. Something made me sad, angry, stressed, afraid, whatever. And to try to communicate it because you're not psychic. How are you going to know if I don't tell you? The guy's response is one of 3 things. I don't agree with what my wife thinks, so I'm going to argue that she shouldn't think that. The implication being that she's wrong, she's stupid, or she's crazy. Anytime you don't rubber stamp approve the thing that she thinks. The second way we respond is I don't feel the same way about this. We like agree that the scenario is the scenario, but we disagree. We should be making such a big deal out of it. We're like, I don't feel the way you feel. You should feel like me. I don't approve. I don't think you're correct to feel this way. And I'm not gonna like, like validate it or whatever. I'm not going to agree that you like should be feeling or acting this way right now. The implication is you're weak, you're hypersensitive, you're overreacting. Something's wrong with you. You need to grow up. You need to toughen up. And the third thing we do is we defend ourselves. And again, these are really decent people. These aren't like overtly narcissistic, abusive people. It's like, wait a minute, like you're blaming me or like misunderstanding the situation. And you're acting like I did a bad thing, but I don't feel like I did a bad thing. Let me like explain to you. And this is something that in my work I've come to call the invalidation triple threat. And I think it's really dangerous. So what happens is my wife says, hey, the dish by the sink again, asshole. What if you didn't? And then, I do one of these 3 response patterns. I don't think what you think. I choose what I think over you. I don't feel what you feel. I choose what I feel over you. Or I don't feel responsible. So stop blaming me for your weak girl, in my marriage. It was like, stop blaming me for your like weak, hypersensitive girl emotions. That will destroy trust in relationships. What a person learns after 5, 7, 10, 20 years together is that when I go tell my husband something's wrong, or it's not always husbands, but when I go tell my partner, my husband, something's wrong, if they don't agree that something's wrong, if they just don't understand what I think or what I feel, they will respond. I don't agree. Like, you're wrong, stupid, crazy, weak, hypersensitive, overreacting, or your feelings aren't my responsibility. And this is the recipe for emotional abandonment in relationships. And, everybody's going to have like a different take on that. I'm not saying on a case-by-case basis, I'm not saying my wife is air quotes right about the dish by the sink. I promise. I don't even think correctness is a relevant metric. I'm saying when I don't give a shit about things that matter to my wife, I will have a very bad or soon to be non-existent marriage with her. Like, that to me is the corollary that people need to worry about. If you don't demonstrate some give a shitness about things that people say are important to me, you're kind of fucked. And so, this one, like, what do you do? I mean, I'm sorry, you gotta like enforce kind of hard boundaries is what I think. I don't think it's okay to be in a relationship with somebody who only treats you like they love you and care about you when they agree that you're allowed to hurt. When the rest of the time they're like, I don't think you should hurt, so fuck off. Like that's not a healthy relationship. And again, we're not literally thinking and feeling that, but it is what happens after we have the conversation. After we imply that they're wrong to think and feel the things they do, and we go away, they're left holding the bag of this fucking sucks, and the person who promised to love me always isn't acting like they do. That is what I believe is like the undercurrent of relationships that fall apart between really good people who aren't doing anything bad. Like, they just, right? There's nothing bad there. It just destroys trust in relationships over a decade. Now, that's dangerous to me.
In your line of work, is there a success rate, or is it just completely fluid? Like, I'll give you a corollary. For example, like recovery centers. I see some people, they go into rehab 3, 4, 5, 26 times. I know in my heart of hearts they're never going to get better, but they continuously do it because there's no other alternative, because the people don't want to think about shit like weed and they can't comprehend that one drug could take the place of another drug, et cetera, whatever. But like, so there's no definitive. I mean, I once heard if 10% of people get through rehab, it's good. Is there any informal number for your line of work? Like, if 100 couples come to you in a year and 80 of them aren't divorced in 5 years, kind of thing, is that good? What's the deal there?
No, and I don't. I wish I had some data, but I don't. Like, people, it's a voluntary activity. I'm not like a marriage counselor. I fancy myself a relationship coach. People hire me. They're usually strangers. I talk to them anywhere between 1 and 5 or 6 or 7 times on average, and then they go away. And I normally don't find out what happens next. Once in a great while, I get a note that's like, dude, everything's good. Like, we're back, and couldn't have done this without you. Thank you. And that's really nice. But that's probably 5% of all the people I've talked to. I honestly don't know. And some people are like on the brink of divorce. And it's like, even if you start executing healthy relationship habits, after 20 years of like mistrust and fuckery, the other person might be like, you know what, I'm done. Like, even though you're now doing the right thing, I've still got this 20-year data sample of fuck you that you dished out to me. I can't bring myself to like lean back in. And you know who that usually is like a mom or a dad after the kids are like out of the house, where they were like hanging on until like their 18-year-old went off to college or whatever. That's like a really common story, is one or both of the parents are like chomping at the bit to like get the fuck out. And they only were sticking it out like for kids.
I mean, at the end of the day, that's not the worst thought process. I mean, just financially for the kids' future, I'm not saying if you're in a unhealthy relationship, don't take things, but like, like wait until because that way you don't have to deal with all the custody. That I think. Would you agree that custody case is probably even 10 times worse than just a regular divorce case? I mean, that just throws kerosene on a gasoline fire. I mean, that's just going to explode everything in some cases. So that's the part you got to be careful at, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, I was really lucky. I don't want to passive aggressively talk shit about other people. I don't mean to imply everybody's fucking it up, and I did divorce amazingly, but I did marry somebody that was worthy of my trust. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't marry some fucking asshole. She was great. And when we got divorced, we didn't get divorced. We got like a mutual cooperative dissolution of marriage where we totally split everything down the middle. My childhood best friend is an attorney. He represented both of us. He's our son's godfather. He just like went to court with like both of us and just like legally negotiated the equal split of like all the things. And I honestly don't know how to understand people. This is just a blind spot, ignorant thing. That's my problem. I don't know how to relate to people that try to fuck with each other when there's children involved. I just don't know. I don't get it. I don't understand why punishing the other parent, if you love your kids, I don't understand why you think punishing the other parent won't have a negative impact on your children. And I've got this very strong belief that I'm not going to do like this code. I'm not going to do something that fucks with my son. Therefore, why would I mistreat like his mother? Even though I was pretty mad at her, like when she ended our marriage, like on my worst day where I like, it's like maybe if something bad happens to her, I won't care. Like, I might have like felt that in a moment of like weak idiocy, because that would have been bad for my son, obviously. But like I would never speak ill of her or like deliberately do some sort of fuck you stuff. But I encounter people in my work all the time that do that to each other. They're like on their second marriage, but like their relationship with their ex is so toxic that they're like in court with like custody hearings with their children. That's really common.
Constantly, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, do you think it's just toxic people? I mean, there's just people who are just born toxic and they're never gonna not be that way. And sometimes they'll subvert and manipulate to get their way, but at the end of the day, they'll ultimately just be toxic.
I don't want to sound snowflakey about this, but I've really come to believe it. Most people who do fucked up things experienced mistreatment when they were young.
Okay.
Like, you know what I mean? Like they saw or directly experienced adults who they were supposed to be able to trust do shit that violated their trust and hurt them. And then these people grow up and they're a little bit broken. And, like I thought therapy was bullshit until I was 35 years old, probably, being like, straight white dude from Ohio. Like, we're not like, let's fucking go to therapy. But that's honestly probably what all the broken people that were mistreated when they were kids need. To be fair. Anyway, we start hurting other people because we didn't fix our shit. And so I don't want to like excuse people who do awful shit. There's no excuse for doing awful shit. But I do think it like started with some negative childhood experiences. Probably. I mean, all the smart people say that. I just repeat it.
All right, Matt, how do I deal with a neighbor walking past my bedroom window? Nah, I'm joking. I ask him the usual question. All right, we always ask people, Beatles or Queen? Who would you pick out of those two bands?
Beatles or Queen?
Yeah.
I mean, I like the Beatles better. I don't have anything against Queen. I watched the Bohemian Rhapsody biopic and thought it was a pretty good movie. I like a few of the songs, but no, Beatles are, I think, consistently considered the greatest music group of all time. And I'm not inclined to argue with that, even though I'm not some diehard Beatles guy.
100%. A lot of great bands come out of the UK, man. I saw Rod Stewart yesterday. He was from England.
Yeah, all right. Zeppelin. This is my favorite rock band of all time. Really good.
Zeppelin's good. I might listen to some Zeppelin after this. All right. Have you ever been in a Ferrari? What about a Lamborghini? And do you have a favorite car?
No, I haven't. My dad, I know it's so fucking Midwest cliche, but my dad's always been a Corvette enthusiast. And he's, you know what I mean? Like really like the history of the Vet. The thing that I love about it is it's the one car besides say the Ford GT that like, in which, there's only three Ford GTs like in the history of American like automobiles. The Chevy Corvette is the only thing that ever like competed performance wise with the supercars from like Europe. And they cost a fucking microfraction of Ferrari, Lambo.
Oh yeah.
All those things. And so I've always had a lot of respect. And now that it's like a mid-engine and like really, really balanced car, my dad has a handful of them. Just one of the new ones, but they're cool cars. I would sheepishly say I think that the Corvette is my favorite car. Something I just inherited from my father, and I understand there's like a lot of memes and like make fun of a bullshit about like vet owners.
I can't fit in fucking sports cars, but my choice would be like something bigger. I don't know. I'm not really a car guy. That's like against the stereotype of everybody out here, but I got a fucking Kia Forte. I just don't care. It drives around. It's cheap. I mean, I as long as the thing runs, I really don't care. I mean, it's I would rather travel than have a nice car, to be honest with you. That leads me to my next question. What do you like the Caribbean? Have you ever been to the Virgin Islands? If you had I mean, you were talking about the stereotypical Ohioan going to Myrtle Beach in Florida to think it's a vacation. Yeah. That's so funny because, like, I got so many buddies. They go, "Oh, yeah, we're going to Florida." I'm like, you had any idea how amazing the Virgin Islands and some of these other little places where you'd be like, "Fuck Florida." What's your favorite spot in the Caribbean?
I've honestly, I'm embarrassed. I've not been. The furthest south that way I've been is the Keys.
Okay.
I've not even like been over to the Bahamas. And then, I've spent some time on the Gulf Coast in Mexico a few times, which I really like it down there. Flying to Cancun and then like go find a spot. I've always had like a really good time down there. So no, I'm not particularly well traveled, which I'm not proud of. It's just a function of when I was young, I didn't have the resources. And then now that I'm older, like I've had a child and he's only with me half the time and he's in school. I think like when he graduates here in a couple of years, I'm going to have a lot more time to like go like be an adult. And if you're saying go to the Virgin Islands, fucking go to the Virgin Islands. That sounds great.
I've been there 3 times. It gets better every time because weed's illegal down there now. And I got this bag I got at Amazon. I just put it in a check bag, carry all my weed down there so I don't even have to worry about paying island prices for weed. It's golden, dude. And this resort we go to, it's called Secret Harbor. It's got its own beach right there. It's the thing I like about the Virgin Islands is it's a hassle to get to. And I say that because like a lot of people want, oh, here's $20, give me a good time. And they hop on a fucking Frontier or Spirit and go to, Orlando and pretend they're having a good time when they really not, when they could be in a fucking secluded ass, awesome. It's just banger, man. You gotta check it out. You gotta check that shit out. Now, let's see here. Do you like McDonald's, and what is something they had that you missed?
Yeah. So yes, I don't like. That's so funny. No one's ever asked me this question before, like in a public forum. It's really funny. Sure, I like McDonald's. I grew up pretty poor in Little Sydney, Ohio. We fucking ate McDonald's. That was like a thing. And a thing that used to exist that doesn't exist now. I've always mostly stuck to the classics. I've always been like mostly like a quarter pounder with cheese guy. Like that meal is kind of like the McDonald's standard order. But honestly, I'm embarrassed to tell you this. It's recent. It's not like the fucking McPizza or whatever from when we were kids. Like it was, I don't know if you remember this, but just like maybe like 7 years ago, 8 years ago, they did this for like 2 months. They made fresh donuts. They made like fresh donut sticks and they tasted fucking magical. And I don't advocate like eating fast food, McDonald's drive-through and donut sticks. Like I'm in the like quasi health and wellness industry. Here I am drinking at 10, 11 in the morning. But I don't necessarily think eating fast food and donut sticks is like the best thing. But those were magic. And what I think happened was everybody was ordering them and they were making them fresh to order. And it was like order times were going from like 2-3 minutes per customer to like 10 minutes per customer. And it was fucking them up. So they like got rid of it. I think that's my economic theory on why the best thing they've ever made isn't there anymore.
One of my biggest pet peeves, and I know they can't control this because they want to get their little corporate time in, but the pulling up. Could you please pull up every time I hear that? And it's been like this for 25, 30 years. Every fucking time I hear pull up, I just want to fucking reach to the thing and bang your head in the counter and say, make my order now, bitch, but they can't. You got to. And I've had several funny rants of my buddy Squirrel. We talk about that shit. And it's a minor noise, but it's funny though, because like I miss the old breakfast dollar menu. You used to have the fruit and yogurt parfait was $1. The sausage McMuffin was $1. Coffee was $1. They had like 3-4 good 5 things that were $1, and you could give.
That's not a thing now.
No, dude, I saw this guy. I use the app, so I still get some pretty good deals. This guy in front of me the other day ordered a sausage McMuffin, a large coffee, and a hash brown. Something that would have been $3 in 2017-18, and that shit was $8.59. That's mind-boggling. I mean, this guy should use the app. If you're out there and you don't use the apps for these places, start doing it because they got the deals. It might not be like that forever, but for right now in this bullshit inflationary cycle we got, it's a good thing to hedge against, expensive food. Like Right, I just came from McDonald's before we got here. You might saw me eating the McMuffin earlier. It was like $8. I got the wife a pop and 2 sandwiches because I used the app. If I did not use the app, that's a fucking $15 meal. You know what I mean? So get that app. What period of time would you like to live in that you haven't lived in already?
I mean, that's a really good question. I think I'm more curious about the future. I'm not overly optimistic about it, but I'm more curious about the future than I am interested in like going back in time. I am somebody who enjoys modern conveniences. I like HD TV. I like that I can fucking watch 4 football games on Sunday on YouTube TV. Last year for the first time, I'm like, Jesus, look at this miracle. I'm like my own sports bar. Like, you know what I mean? It was extraordinary shit we have now on our phones. Good God, we can do fucking anything. It's a miracle. So I would like to see some AI. You know, I want to see the world where a being is walking around and it's not human, but you can't quite tell, like you see in certain sci-fi movies. That's going to be fucking fascinating.
Now, do you think it's going to be more? I'm trying to think of a movie where it's not a dystopian future. That's the thing that's funny about future movies is that like every time they do a future movie, it's never a good future. It's always a dystopian future, like Ready Player One. We're all living in giant trailer parks stacked 15 high, you know, shitting in our bedrooms in a bucket. That's how poor we're going to be. I mean, there's as a world, as a country, the standard of living is so much better than it was even 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. I mean, Wi-Fi is everywhere. 90% of the world has cell phones. I mean, we're getting, in America at least, I mean, everybody has flush plumbing. Everybody has temperature controlled environments typically. Yeah. I mean, it's so much better than it was. Granted, we can make things cheaper. You know, it may maybe not shame people for, you know, not being able to afford a house when they're 25, when the houses are $300,000 and they're making $30,000 a year, that kind of shit. But like, like you said, on the modern conveniences, I love Wi-Fi, internet. I mean, this call 10 years ago, 20 years ago, I mean, the satellite to hook this up, you know, I would have had to, it would have been insane. I mean, the $75,000 to do something like this. Now we just press a button and we're talking.
We'd probably have to set up a tripod with a camera and I drive up to the same room as you. It's probably the only way to do it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like practically speaking. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And we'd have to find some public access channel to air it on. I mean, they wouldn't, you know what I mean? Which that was the inspiration for a lot of this show was Wayne's World. I loved Wayne's World as a kid, dude. Loved it. And he did that show right from his basement. And that's why originally the show was on Fridays at 9:30 because that's the same time Wayne's World would start on the thing, I think. I just love it. One of these days, Dana Carver will do the show. I should probably email those people. We'll see. Have you ever done stand-up? Would you ever consider stand-up, acting, entertainment, that kind of stuff?
I'm a shy bitch. No, I get like stage fright and stuff.
Okay.
Like I've been nominated for TED Talks and stuff, and I'm scared they're gonna ask me to do it. I'm gonna get over it. It's just it's like it's new. Like I think it's a stretch to call me a public figure, but I dabble in public figureness now as like an author and a person who has these conversations periodically. I'm gonna start to do like some live like relationship workshops and stuff. That's something that'll be coming up in like 2025, 2026. So I'm gonna have to get over it. But going back to like the kid reading the like book report in class, one of my favorite stories from college, if you don't mind, I took Intro to Computing at the University of Toledo. Intro to Computing was Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, Microsoft PowerPoint. The catch was, with PowerPoint, you had to make a PowerPoint and stand in front of the entire lecture hall in front of like 200 kids and like give some fucking talk. And so I would, my first semester of freshman year, once we got to the PowerPoint section, I just stopped going to class and I failed the class. My dad was fucking pissed. And I'm like, Dad, it's cool. You can just do like grade replacement. I'll take it the next semester and my new grade will replace my shit grade. Everything will be fine. And he's like, you're not thinking about how much it costs to pay for these classes. Fuck you. But also fine, do that. Second semester, once I got through Word and Excel and I got to PowerPoint, I skipped all the classes and I failed it a second time in a row. That is my favorite college class story. And it's because I was such a pussy about like standing up in front of people and talking. So I admire the hell out of you getting on stage and doing a bit. Is awesome.
I took the Intro to Computing course. I took it at Tri-C. That was the easiest fucking class in my entire career. I'm not gonna lie. Maybe Intro to Golf was easier, but that Intro to Computing. Oh, granted, I was a computer major, but at least at Tri-C, I mean, it was literally just like open a Word document, type it, and we'd have this book, and it would tell you the instructions of what to do. And if you did it, you passed. It was literally so easy. I still remember that class. I took it with my cousin Chrissy. It was great. I was gonna say something else about college. I forgot now. All right. At the end of it all, man, what do you want your legacy to be?
I mentioned earlier, I don't want to get like, it's not sob story time, but I took very seriously. First, my parents divorced when I was young. I really didn't like my dad living 500 miles away. That was like a hard thing for a young boy. And then the exact same fucking thing happened with my own marriage. And here's my 4-year-old. And it was different because we live close and I see him like every 2 days. We've done a 50-50 thing since he was 4 years old, where it's like every 2 or 3 days, he's with one of us for 2 or 3 days. It's how we've done the weeks for forever, for the last, 11, 12 years. I really would like to, I really hope my work can keep some marriages and some families together. I would like little kids to not have their parents split up and maybe to grow up to have healthy marriages that don't end in painful divorces. And that's not a thing I'll know. But I'm glad there's a book floating out there. I have no idea what its shelf life will be, but maybe somebody will read it, after I'm gone, and it'll make a difference. I hope so.
What is your YouTube? You have a YouTube channel, I think, right?
It's shit. I'm not somebody who's like, everything's old. Everything's like 3 years old. But yeah, Matthew Fray, Matthew, last name Fray, Fray, on YouTube. Like, you can find me there. And listen, I need to be uploading YouTube videos. It's bullshit that I haven't. I'm not a huge fan of social media. I'm not a big fan of self-promotion. But as you know, this is the work. Like, if you want people to pay attention to you in the 21st century, you've got to be on social, like growing an audience. So I'm starting to like take it seriously and do some things. Mostly I write on a platform called Substack. Okay. I have like an email newsletter that goes out. People, just sign up for everything that I write. And that's mostly where I'm like doing my work these days.
So self-promotion is tough because it's like, you got to differentiate. It's called YouTube. That means literally everybody who calls himself you, which is everybody, can have a tube. That means you got 8 billion potential channels you got to compete against. And there's no limit to the number of channels you could make. So one person can make 100 channels. So it's theoretically infinite competition against that stuff. And you got to stick out amongst the sea of fucking ridiculousness. That's why I like talking with, random people local. I saw, people, I had 2 weeks ago, I had a month and a half ago, I had a Michigan State tight end from the 90s, and now I got Matthew Fray on. We just bring everybody from all around because at the end of the day, man, life isn't just about talking about one thing. It's about everything. Music, arts, entertainment, movies, just having fun, doing it, all that kind of stuff. Weed, titties, all that shit. That's the thing, man. Titties are so. It's hard for me to not just obsess over titties. We talk about the ADHD thing, bro. I love me a fucking sweet set of titties. I do. It's hard to. Especially with some of these girls, they like really like promote their titties. It's hard to not take part in their promotions. But the wife knows about this. I don't. It's not like I have a fucking biggest titty contest every week. Oh, we should do that biggest titty. Regardless, I don't know. You should come up for a game, my friend. Come up for a Browns game, bro. We'll kick it and smoke and kick it.
No, let's be good. I've got a buddy in Rocky River. I think I'm going to go try to see for the Raiders game. I've got a wedding in Avon that weekend, so I think I'm going to try to hang out with like some. Yeah, I know Rocky River's not Cleveland, but it's more Cleveland than me.
I'm in North Olmsted, so River's about 10 minutes. They have 5 minutes, actually, if you consider Giant Eagle. So, yeah, if you're out at bar, man, hit me up and we'll do it. Thanks for coming on, man. It's been fucking awesome, dude. And we got to keep in touch, brother.
Yeah, all yes, right. Sir. Please reach out anytime. It was really cool. Thanks a lot.
All right, programming note, Saturday, or the 23rd of September, Chesney Hawks is coming on, and still February 3rd. What's his name? The guy from Hardy, but Malcolm Reed's going to come on, the barbecue guy. So thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll talk to you guys later. All right, we are.